The New York Knicks are on their way to the conference finals after defeating the Boston Celtics 4-2. We're going to talk about that, plus preview the series coming up next when they take on the Pacers and Game 7 for the Denver Nuggets. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On NBA Game Night, where it's every game, every night. We got Swipar, one of the hosts of Locked On Nuggets, in the building. Myself, Haize, and today's episode is brought to you guys by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code Locked On NBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. The New York Knicks, Boston Celtics. Final game went down today. The New York Knicks just come out with just crazy energy to start off this game. They understood they did not want to risk this game going to Game 7 at all. Jalen Brown fouls out with about 3 minutes left. I think we're in the third quarter of this game. Swipar, overall, how'd you feel about this game and the series overall?
Well, number one, shout out to the New York Knicks for them to make the conference finals after such a long drought, over 25 years of not being in the conference finals, and for them to get back. This is such an important moment. I want to remind everybody, Knicks fans, you'll remember this. Y'all, it wasn't but maybe 5 or 6 years ago where it felt like the Knicks were just going to be in the same place they've always been. James Dolan as the owner hadn't done a lot of great jobs. Like all the stuff, the issues with Charles Oakley, everything that happened in the stands. They were a team that were perpetually selling out arenas, but they just could not seem to field an elite or very good roster. And then all that kind of changes. They make some personnel decision where they decide they want to get some of the people into the building to do the job. They get some of the folks like Leon Rose and others to get into the building and help to really build a proper culture. And how do you go about making sure you're getting the right people in the building to do the job? They get Jalen Brunson's father on the coaching staff with Thibs. And from that moment on, Jalen Brunson, all of the stars align where the Dallas Mavericks, they don't give him the offer that he felt like he deserved. And he ends up walking, gets a very, 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 very cheap deal relative to what he could have gotten with the New York Knicks. And then Jalen Brunson, after being a great story, he develops into one of the best players in the sport, becomes an all NBA player out of nowhere. And with that, he transforms the New York Knicks into a perpetual stepping stone for other teams in the playoffs to becoming one of the preeminent franchises in the Eastern Conference in a playoff setting. And then they make the trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. And this year, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to reward them with, I think, at least a second or third team All-NBA regular season. And they do this by getting through their nemesis, the Boston Celtics. I picked the Celtics to win that series 4-1. The Celtics had been better than the Knicks in the regular season by a good amount. Even all the Knicks fans and people that work with the Knicks that I talked to said they were just hoping that it will be a good series, but they were hoping for 6 at best. If you could have told them that there would be an idea where Jason Tatum would be available for 4 games in the series, and before Jason Tatum goes down, they're on their way with a 9-point lead with 3 minutes left of going up 3-1 in a series over a healthy, not minus KP, healthy Celtics team, I think most New York Knicks fans could not have even envisioned that their season would go that well, Haize. So honestly, I feel very happy and proud for the city of New York, for all the folks in Madison Square Garden, all the folks that represent all the boroughs of that city, all the lifelong New York Knicks fans. You're back in the Eastern Conference Finals. And not only that, Haize, we're going to get a true throwback to the 1990s series with the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks.
Yeah, we'll preview that series a little bit here in the second segment because I'm excited to talk about what that series could be. But I love how you laid out what everything that just happened to get the Knicks to this point. Like, there's after the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, Of course, there were crazy expectations. You get Mikal Bridges, you get Karl-Anthony Towns. Of course, there's going to be expectations, but this team didn't really look like they had this in them at points in the season. Everybody made so much about the record against the top 3 teams in the league and made that the story on how far could they really go in the playoffs with that record. And this just goes to show you, I'm not one of the people that say the regular season doesn't matter, because I think it matters. It matters a lot, but it's not the end all be all when you get to the playoffs. It is a completely different season. It's the second season when you get into the playoffs. And when you allow a team to focus on just one opponent, that's where you get things like this at. Like we've seen nobody expected the way that this playoffs has gone. It has not gone the way anybody expected in any of these rounds thus far. And we'll talk about the last game left in the second round with Denver and OKC and how that could go. But this has been one of the most unexpected and fun playoffs that I have seen in years. Swipe. I can't remember the last time it's been this much unexpected happen all in one run in the playoffs.
Yeah, look, I think that you definitely want to give credit here too to Jalen Brunson. I think a lot of people, if you forgot the timeline, remember last year, Jalen Brunson, he took a deal that signed a 4-year, $156 million extension. And remember, this is after an all-NBA season, so he could have easily gotten more money. Now he will make up for it on the other end. Once he turns down his player option, he'll be eligible for a deal in 2029 for 5 years, $418 million. And you better believe that if he continues to play well for this Knicks team, he will get that. So he's going to make the money on the other side, Haize. But look, it takes vision and it takes some boldness for them to take the chance that they did. And they drafted for fit. And they also acquired free agents for fit. I think that's also a really important story here, because getting Mikal Bridges, for a lot of people, Haize, they felt like giving up all those first-round picks for Mikal Bridges isn't worth it because he's not the player worthy of that. But I think what you're seeing is that it's actually about the culture. It's about the fit. It's about having all the Villanova boys minus Dante DiVincenzo in the building together. And then coupling Mikal with OG Anunoby, with Josh Hart, with Jalen Brunson, with Karl-Anthony Towns, with Mitchell Robinson and Miles McBride. They have one of the best 7-man rotations in the NBA, and Tibbs rides them. He plays them hard, but they make up for it, and they make sure that they're paying it off as well. So, again, just a great season by the Knicks with more and more great basketball to come.
For sure. In this game, you get 4 20-point performances in this game. Mikal Bridges with 22, OG Anunoby with 23, Karl-Anthony Towns with 21, Jalen Brunson with 23, Josh Hart with 10 in this game. You also get 10 from Miles McBride on it. When you look at this, what was the determining factor in this series to you? Was it the play of Jalen Brunson? Was it the coaching of Tom Thibodeau, the way that the Knicks have stepped up defensively over the series? What's the one thing you're going to look back on in as the factor in this series?
I mean, honestly, it was a mix of a lot. I think the coaching, Tibbs deserves credit for that. But I also think Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns are negative defenders for the most part over the course of their career. But what the Knicks did is they put really versatile defenders around them. And I think the idea, Haize, it was always there that there was a path for them in just how they were going to play and how they were going to work around each other. But they just said that we're going to get Josh Hart, who's a great 6'4" do-it-all defender who can do a lot of different things, with Mikal Bridges, with OG, and then Mitchell Robinson got healthy. And hey, that also changed their fortune, because now you have a true defensive anchor in Mitchell Robinson to play next to Brunson or even play next to Karl-Anthony Towns should you need to. And for me, their vision that they planted last summer when they made these moves, getting everybody healthy, I think that's actually what changed the series for them. Because if they didn't have all the wings on the floor to guard Tatum and Brown and Drew and Derek, and then on the other end, because they're playing such good defense, they're down 23 times in the series, Haize. But look, they fought back to get back into the game, and they had the closer in Jalen Brunson that was able to shut the door on a lot of these very close games with the last 3 minutes left. So I think it's just a culmination of great decision-making with the roster, a belief in an identity, and knowing that when you have the best player in these series, which has been Jalen Brunson, that makes all the difference between winning and losing these close games.
That's a fact. Let's go to John Corrales, the host of Locked On Celtics. His team gets eliminated. Let's see how he's feeling.
Celtics got crushed by the New York Knicks here at Madison Square Garden. The Boston Celtics season is over. Came to a crashing halt. It was tied at 16 in the first quarter. And then when you say the wheels fell off, I mean, you could not have had them fly off in a more disastrous fashion. Celtics turned the ball over a ton. Jalen Brown had 7 of Boston's 14 turnovers through 3 quarters. I say through 3 quarters because that was garbage time at the end of the third into the fourth when the lead got up past 40. Jalen was the only guy who could score for the Celtics, but his turnovers, he was trying to do too much, and that just led to a disaster. It's kind of old habits coming back for him. Celtics got crushed on the boards, giving up a ton of offensive rebounds, second chances, and that just turned into a landslide of shots. And early on, the Knicks were even doing it without Jalen Brunson. And once he started hitting shots, it was a wrap. Kind of a disastrous end to a season that everyone thought, a lot of people thought that the Celtics were at least one of the favorites for a championship, and that clearly has not been the case. Once again, a champion gets bounced in the second round. A lot of questions for the Celtics now. What's going to happen in this offseason? How do you get below the second apron? How many of these big contracts are gone? Meaning Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, maybe others. It's going to be a big summer of change. I'll have it covered all on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Real quick before we get out of this segment, Swiper, how much change do you think is coming for Boston? How many of these players are gone by the start of next season?
Yeah, that's so tough, man. That's really tough. The Celtics are in a really interesting bind. Tatum, who's one of the Iron Men of the sport, for him to be out probably for at least the next year. So he's missing all of the 2025-26 season. Jalen Brown, he's going to have to take an elevated role. KP looks like he might be diminished at this point because of sickness. So does he bounce back? And then you got an aging Drew Holiday. Then you have the Derek White contract, Peyton Pritchard. Yeah, there's a very real opportunity, Haize, where 2 of these players are not back. And now they got to kind of revamp the team. But the good news is they have a great ownership. New ownership soon. They have a great front office leader in Brad Stevens. They will find the next era in what this team is supposed to look like. But they will have Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown more than likely to build on this after this next season. I think this is going to be a little bit of a dead year they're walking into. But the good news is that you're not trying to compete for a title next year. So what can you do to make sure that when Tatum does come back ready to play basketball, that you're ready to compete at the highest level again? So there will be changes made to get ready for that next era of Celtics basketball.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to talk about what the next series is going to bring as the Boston Celtics take on the Indiana Pacers. But first, we got into a message from Prize Picks. Basketball season is at its peak, and with the playoffs heating up, now's the time to put your sports knowledge to work with Prize Picks, the top platform for daily fantasy sports. Prize Picks makes it easy. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. Whether it's points, rebounds, or assists, you've got a shot to win up to 2,000 times your entry. This week, coming up, I'm definitely going to be taking Nikola Jokic to score more than 26 points, and we'll see what Jalen Brunson can do against the Indiana Pacers. But that makes it takes less than 60 seconds to use, and I love how much I can mix and match basketball players with other sports like baseball or esports in the same lineup. When you hit your picks, the payout hits fast. Sometimes it is as little as 15 minutes. Tuesdays are even better with Taco Tuesday, where player projections are discounted up to 25% for even more value. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Well, Locked On Game Night coming up next. All right, Swiper. So, next series, Eastern Conference Finals. It's going to be the New York Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers. This is going to be, I guess, a pick your poison series. I don't know. How you feeling? Who do you have favorite right now coming into that series?
Well, I think that the playoffs have shown depth matters. And
Yes.
as good as the Knicks top 7 are, I would argue that the Indiana Pacers, for the remaining of the playoffs, have the second best 9-man rotation in the playoffs behind OKC, depending on if OKC gets out of this round they're in currently in Game 7. But Indiana with Tyrese Halliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, Miles Turner, TJ McConnell, Benny Mathurin, Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, Thomas Bryant. They have 10 players they will trust to play. And all of these players, and the worst one I would say And this is not including Ben Shepherd even. Ben Shepherd also another person that can play. Thomas Bryant might be the worst rotation player they have, and he's had some really good minutes in the last series they just played. I'm leaning Indiana. I think Indiana, they're playing so good at the right time of year. Their offense is hellacious. They're passing the ball super well. One of the stats that I read off a couple months ago, the last several champions, I think only 2 of them in the last 14 years, maybe. All of the champions have finished top 3 in effective field goal percentage in the regular season. And this year, the top 3 in effective field goal percentage in the NBA were the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Denver Nuggets, and the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers can get in offense easier than anybody in the league, arguably even outside of Denver. And with their defense, with Nesmith and Nembhard and Pascal, they have just been able to really load up in some ways with Miles Turner, obviously, that have helped them to be able to be a true two-way team. So I'm leaning Pacers. I want to say Pacers in 6, but man, we could be looking at a Pacers-Knicks 7-game series winner to the NBA Finals, Haize.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the more unexpected conference finals that you can really put up. Like I don't know if anybody had this. And while the Pacers have been a team that's been tough, have gotten there before, it just did not feel like that was what was going to be in store for the season, considering how the regular season went for all the teams that were in the playoffs this year. And I'm really excited. I think a key matchup in this one is definitely going to be Halliburton versus Brunson. That's going to be one of the key matchups in this one. I think also, like, when you look at Miles Turner and Karl-Anthony Towns, like, that's going to be really important in this one as well. The depth, everything. Like, I don't know if, even if it would have been Boston and the Pacers or anything, if it would have been matched up this well, because the offense is going to be really important to see who executes and who can make the right defensive stops in this one. Coaching, Rick Carlisle and Tom Thibodeau both coached very well in this playoff run as well. That's going to be another big determining factor, I feel like, in this playoff series as well.
Yeah, man. Rick Carlisle and the system that he's deployed versus Tibbs, man, that is going to be an interesting matchup. Who's your gut leaning, as you look at the series and kind of how it's going to roll out? You got Hallie versus Brunson. You got Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, I think, versus Karl-Anthony Towns. And then you're going to have, obviously, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mikal Robinson versus Nesmith versus Andrew Nembhard, and then versus, like, obviously Benny and all them. Where are you leaning right now?
It's tough because, like, Halliburton and Brunson have been very clutch in fourth quarters this year. But I think how good Brunson is in fourth quarters, I'm going to lean towards Brunson to really lead the Knicks in this series, because I don't know if Halliburton could do anything with Brunson, to be 100% honest with you. So I'll lean the Knicks right now, but I reserve the right to change it after the first couple of games, because as we've seen with this series, with this playoff run so far, like, you can think something's going to go one way, but very often in the first game of the series, it all gets turned on its head very early on.
Yeah. And also, too, I want to say this too, hey, credit to the new era we're in. This is going to be yet another year. Since 2019, we have not seen a champion that has made it past the second round to go back to the NBA Finals. This is since 2019. The last team to win a championship and make the finals was the Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, and then they also had DeMarcus Cousins that year as well, with Steph and Draymond and Clay. They were just utterly loaded. And the only reason they didn't win again for 3 straight is because of injuries to Kevin Durant and then eventually to Klay Thompson. So this is a new era, Haize. Parity is here. The CBA has basically made it to where you're going to have different teams that are competing for the top of the league every single season. And you have to find ways in this new era to get 6 to 8 players. And really, I don't want to say 6, 7 to 8 to 9 players.
9,
that you can play and deploy versus multiple schemes, multiple teams in playoff settings. And that is going to be the advantage you have over teams that even might have a better 5 than you. Because if you got a dependable 9 and got a dependable 8 that you can rely on, that's going to take you so far. So this is a new era. We're not having repeat champions. If you told me the Boston Celtics were not making the NBA Finals, I probably would have been like, man, like, somebody must have just traded for Kevin Durant or no, not at all. It's just and again, Knicks fans, the Knicks had them down 3-1 on the way to 3-1 when Tatum went down. So it wasn't as if this was an injury thing. They won without Tatum in the last game they played. But look, man, you need talent. You need roster development. You need good front offices. And I think this is going to be pressuring general managers to do an even better job in building the right kind of rotation to win a championship.
You need depth. Like you have to have it now. And we'll talk about the Denver Nuggets coming up. That's one of the things that I'm worried about with them against the Thunder in Game 7 is just how far the Thunder can go into their bench. But you need it. And I think when we're coming into this era of the second tax apron and all that, like if you're going to spend over the luxury tax and into the second tax apron, you better be sure that you have balance on that team and throughout that roster. Because if you don't, you're going to have an expensive roster that's not going to go far. And so I think both these teams have been built really well. They both have made moves that have all culminated in this point over the last couple of years. And I think this is going to be a really unexpected, but I think this is going to be a really fun series that's probably going to go 6 or 7 games.
It better. Yeah, we definitely need it to. I think for the sake of basketball, I'm hoping it does.
For sure. We'll talk about a series that's in Game 7 right now, as far as the Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder that are going to be playing on Sunday. But first, we got to get to the message from Game Time. I'll edit that. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience, and this year's matchups are already delivering. If you want in, Game Time makes it fast and easy to get seats. Even for the biggest playoff games, prices on the app actually go down closer to tip-off, and with killer last-minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I was just on the app looking at tickets for the OKC Denver game, and I love that they were reasonably priced, but still ridiculous. I love that I can see the exact view before I buy, no surprises. The app makes it ridiculously simple. 2 taps, and I'm done. With the Game Time guarantee, you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll credit me 110% of the difference. You'll find great seats as low as $100 thanks to exclusive discounts. And with Game Time guarantee, your tickets are 100% authentic and will arrive on time. You always get the best price with fees included. So what you see is what you pay. And if you've ever used Game Time to grab NFL seats, now's the time. It's seriously a game day upgrade. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. More game night coming up next. All right, so Swiper, we get to talk about your team, man. Game 7 going down on Sunday. We get a day break of no games and gear up for a really intense, or what I hope is an intense final game to get to the Western Conference Finals. How confident are you feeling about your team coming into this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Nuggets feel good. The players feel good. Aaron Gordon did tweak his hamstring at the end of the last minute, of Game 6. So hopefully he will be available. He's currently listed as questionable per my brother Tony Jones for The Athletic, who covers the Denver Nuggets, does a great job. So hopefully he is able to go and ready to go. But if not, then it's going to be, I think, Peyton Watson starting at that 4 spot to make up for the defensive gap that will. So AG obviously provides a lot for this team, and particularly the rebounding, the shot making off the ball. There's a lot of really important things he does, and I think they'll go to Peyton Watson to maintain that size and defensive versatility, especially because they're playing a lot of zone. But they're going to have to find some creative ways to face the floor. Michael Porter Jr. is averaging 7 points a game in the series, shooting sub 30% from 3 because of an injury to his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
No Aaron Gordon means you're taking a 44% three-point shooter out of the lineup in a team that already lacks spacing. So this is going to require a gargantuan offensive output from Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Because if you're saying Aaron Gordon's not going to be there and be available, even just as a distraction, that means you're going to have to find play from them. Christian Brown, Michael Porter's going to have to play a better game. He is going to get a shot, apparently, before the game gets started. That way he will be able to play as best as he can and manage through the pain. Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther had huge minutes. It's probably going to get a lot of key minutes here. He needs to also be able to hit those shots. But also, Haize, Zeke Naji, A lot of
Yeah.
non-Nuggets fans might not know who Zeke Naji is, but Zeke Naji is the 5th highest paid player on the roster. He's been on the team for 5 years now. He has gone in and out of the lineup. He's had some really, really big stretches defensively. But Zeke Naji, this might be his time to shine. If there's no Aaron Gordon, Zeke has hit threes this year. He actually has had some terrific defensive stretches this year. He's 6'9". He's a very good athlete. But Zeke, sometimes, and I mean this as respectfully as I can, he can be a little bit of a space cadet at times, meaning not fully engaged and locked in where he needs to be. But when he is, he's a true added player because, again, you don't find that kind of athleticism and roaming ability defensively often. So he definitely will have to play. But let's just paint a perfect picture that Aaron Gordon's available. They've already won in OKC. They should have won in game 5 in OKC, but Jokic had 14 points or 13 points in that quarter, but nobody else outside of Jokic scored a basket in the fourth quarter until late garbage time. So we're going to need some masterclass. But again, OKC, all the pressure's on them, I believe. Haize, the Denver Nuggets in the Jokic-Murray era, they're 4-2 in game 7. This is going to be their 7th game 7 since 2019. And this is their third time they've done this, where they've had a game 7 in the first and second round. This would be the third time. The first time was in 2019. The second was in 2020. And now again this year in 2025. So the Nuggets, they're used to being in these spots. They're used to having to battle. And this should be a battle of the Goliaths between Jokic and also SGA. And we'll see how J-Dub responds, because Jalen Williams has not played well over the course of this series either.
And they still have not named the MVP yet, which is crazy because I thought it would have been done early on in this series. And maybe that comes sooner rather than later. But this is going to be one of the most important games. I think this is probably going to be the biggest game that the OKC Thunder have ever played. And Jokic, I mean, finals, I know that he's the engine of that Denver Nuggets team, but like he's going to have a big game and a big performance. The Thunder have guarded Jokic really well. They forced the ball out of his hands at times. And things like that. And especially if Aaron Gordon is not going to be 100%, it puts even more on Jokic. Like Aaron Gordon turning into an above 40% three-point shooter needs to be studied because he's so important for that team. You're going to need other players to step up. You already don't go deep into your bench, which is something I was concerned about. I think I asked you about that like a game too. Like, hey, how concerned are you the further that this series goes on with the fact that, you know, they only go 3 deep into their bench. So you're going to need players to step up because the OKC Thunder are going to be throwing everything at you. I really think this is going to be a game about who sets the tone early. And even then, even if you do set a crazy tone early, you're going to have to keep it up and adjust over the course of the game because this is the most important game of a lot of these players' lives. And so we'll see who steps up in this one. But I don't want to make a prediction on it. I think it could go either way. I don't even feel comfortable making a prediction on it, but I think we're in store for really. I do not want to see a blowout in game 7. Let's make this interesting.
Yeah, I did predict Denver wins on Locked On Nuggets today. I did think they've had a lead going in the last 3 third quarters. They got up as much as 16 this last game. I do think Denver will get a double-digit lead in the fourth at some point, but now it's just going to be about holding on to that lead. But I do think this is going to be a tough game because OKC's never been here in terms of their collection of players. They've never been in the game 7. Dort has, SGA has in 2020, but SGA was obviously just a role player at that point. This team has never faced this kind of wall before, and I've seen the Nuggets win 80-78 playoff games in game 7, and I've also seen this team win games where they have just been an offensive masterclass when they put the Clippers down 20 with 5 minutes left as the underdog in the series as well. OKC, they opened up today as a 7.5-point favorite in this game, and they have been substantial favorites in every game. I think that is crazy, but I also think that is what the public thinks about the difference between these two teams. But don't tell that to Jokic, don't tell that to Murray, don't tell that to Porter and Christian Brown. This is going to be a dogfight, and I can't wait to get to it.
Can't wait. I wish we were on. Well, you will be on Sunday, so you do get to cover it on Locked On Game Night Sunday. So y'all make sure y'all stay in tune with us on Sunday because you'll see Swipar get to react live to his team, whether they win or they go down. So Anything left, Swiper, before we get up out of here, man?
Nah, man, we're getting into the meat and potatoes, man. It's going to be nothing but Western Conference, Eastern Conference shows from here on out, and then we're going to have the NBA Finals coming up in 2 weeks after that. So we're all at a sprint towards the end of the season right now.
That's a fact. It's about to be fun times, man. And thank you guys for sticking it out with us and following us over here, man. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. You can subscribe to Locked On NBA, where you actually get 2 shows on this feed. You get Locked On Game Night every night after every game. You also get Locked On NBA, which is the show that drops in the middle of the day during the day. So make sure you guys stay in tune with us and locked in with us for both of those shows. Go and follow Swiper over at Locked On Nuggets, as well as he's going to be giving some of the best coverage for the team that's hopefully going to be in the NBA Finals. So we appreciate you guys, man. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. Love you guys. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.